Hi, so I want to do this video about my drawing progress since I started drawing last summer, which is about a year ago now. I recently started uploading to Newgrounds, which is kind of like reaching a bar for me. I'm doing this video in a slideshow format because it's kind of like James Rolfe or something, like one of these things where you kind of just like look at your past, like the Cinemassacre 200 video or something.
I loved movies, especially slapstick comedies and classic horror films, and I just wanted to make my own.
I should state some of my influences, I guess. So, John Kay, Steven Hillenburg, Ken Sugimori, Akira Toriyama, Rumiko Takahashi, Hirohiko Araki, Miyazaki, Naoki Urasawa, Tsutomu Nihei, Junji Ito, Shigeru Mizuki, Yoshitaka Amano, Mobius, Akira Yasuda, Bangus, Oni, Egoraptor, Emma McMillan, and Dan Paladin. So I first started trying to draw in summer 2021 at age 26. I never really tried that hard to draw it as a kid, and I wasn't very good at it. I think I'm getting to be pretty decent now. One of the catalysts was probably me finding out about the early works of Akira Toriyama. He's always been super cool, his work on Chrono Trigger or Dragon Quest, and obviously Dragon Ball. But I was also always a fan of Dr. Slump, and I found out about Go-Go Ackman and what's this thing called again? The something theater, the manga theater. It has all of these one-shots he did for Shonen Jump and possibly other manga magazines in the early 80s, and it's really cool. The art was spectacular even back then. So since I grew up with Smash Bros and Street Fighter and stuff, those are some of my inspirations for drawing. Street Fighter 2 and 3, those have very concrete styles. You can tell what they're going for anyway. It's a cartoony take on the American comic style, you know? So Akira Yasuda, he was the Street Fighter 2 designer, and he worked on Forgotten Worlds, which is a Sega Genesis game that I used to have. He worked on Final Fight as well. And Bangus, he was the artist for Third Strike, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which is one of my favorite arcade games of all time. It has a lot of this really cool 90s music, especially the drum and bass. And the parry system is really good. I used to play it in these rundown arcades in Vancouver, and I would walk through Chinatown to get there. And the rainy nights would be cool, and the pizza parlors along the way. I would go for pizza, you know. Whole thing was pretty cool, and I still play that game online. I have the PS3 version and Fightcade. One of the best fighting games in my opinion. I would say that Street Fighter has this interesting take on anatomy for a comic style. It's Frank Frazetta, but also kind of anime. It's in between Frank Frazetta or Boris Vallejo and Norman Rockwell, these super hyper realistic drawings of people. In between that and Cashern or some other anime superhero person. So there's a certain Capcom style. So Junji Ito was one of the prompts for me wanting to become an artist. On 4chan in 2009 or something, on the Slash V video games board, people used to derail threads by posting chapters from these stories. Junji is a horror mangaka, and these are psychedelic, very strange horror stories with these crazy visuals, unlike anything. It's very weird. Uzumaki, where there's the spiral person, he stuffs himself in this barrel on a spiral thing, and it's very strange. There's nothing like it, really. I just found that, and also Blame, which I'm about to talk about, those inspired me to try to draw. So with Blame, it's kind of this seinen edge. It has this edge that Ghost in the Shell does, or Gantz. So Blame is kind of Evangelion or something, not really, but it's a seinen, mature comic. And I was into Watchmen and all that stuff, and I just wanted to be able to create something Monster or something by Naoki Urasawa, these just drama comics. Some of those are really good. Like Paranoia Agent and like Shinya Tsukamoto movies inspire me. Like Tetsuo the Iron Man or Bullet Ballet and like Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira and other manga. Like, this is like what I mean, just these like strange, dramatic, often Japanese, sometimes body horror stories. Like Cronenberg's like Dead Ringers, just these strange things. I don't know, I could be in that mood, I guess. So, as a kid, I was terrible at drawing. I deleted or threw out like pretty much every drawing I ever had. I always liked movies and games and anime, though. I would say that I lived through the renaissance of Canadian cartoons in the 90s. We had like Reboot, we had Stickin' Around, we had Courage the Cowardly Dog. SpongeBob came out of the 90s. Cyber 6 was a good one. Cowboy Bebop, this isn't Canadian, but I don't know, like I just liked watching YTV, which was the Canadian channel, and Teletoon. Just a good time. I draw from reference a lot. I used to think that that was a bad thing because you're like kind of copying material in some cases, and I still try not to completely copy. I might copy a little bit, but I think that it's okay to have to like look up something because human brains are not savant-like. Like if they are, then you like can't function. So I don't think that anybody has a perfect visual library in their head of what a leaf looks like from the chlorophyll level and everything. Like no one can like perfectly remember what something looks like, so reference is okay. If you watch Monben, which is this show about mangakas, it's a good one, I recommend it. A lot of the mangakas will actually just like take a picture and then draw over it as their background, because backgrounds are just a pain in the ass. At some point I heard about automatic drawing, which is this thing where you just like don't think, you kind of like limit yourself from putting rational thought into it or stopping something because you feel self-conscious about it. You just go wherever it leads and you just like put the marks down. Like Jean Girard, also known as Mobius, he apparently did this a lot where he would do that in between every drawing, just kind of like mess around on the page, just like swivel his arm around and whatever. I'm not sure if that's actually what he did, but that's kind of what I do. I just kind of swivel my arm around and usually I actually wind up like with a good picture out of it, surprisingly. And they are like kind of like psychedelic looking. I heard about it from this solo artist, Self-Learning Curriculum by Brendan Meacham. I found this on Reddit. I followed it for a while, but I wound up deviating from it. I just like to just draw whatever, I guess. It is great though. It has like a figure drawing like part, like you learn, like maybe you do like the 50 hand exercise or the 50 face exercise. Like there's just all these little exercises to like grind out. There is this drawing prompt generator I used at one point when I couldn't think of how to spice up the drawings. It gives you recommendations of what to draw. I drew this like monster under the bed drawing from it. I took the online Drawbox course and got pretty far. It encourages getting the stroke right on the first attempt, the confident drawing of lines. So like rather than doing the chicken scratch hatching type thing, because in my experience that turns out bad. There are some styles it works for, but for the most part, you don't want to be doing that. Drawbox also teaches perspective and construction. Has the 150 box challenge, which is kind of notorious. You draw 150 boxes, but in various perspectives. And you draw it without the perspective of like guidelines, but then you find the horizon. You have to find where the lines lead to, and you find like the apex and the nadir, the above and the below of the box, and then the where it goes on the horizon, you know. The construction stuff is really good though, and it starts out with just like these very, very simple drawing exercises, like fitting a circle within a box like perfectly, and drawing like a sausage type shape out of like balls and and lines. So it has parts for drawing plants, insects, animals and cars. And although I like horror, I can't handle insects. I can't handle looking at them, especially on a big screen. I use a Chromebook, which is only like a 15-inch screen or something. It's not that big, but I cannot look at an insect at that size. So I actually just like quit Drawbox after the insect incident. I followed the famous artist cartoon course a bit, where you learn how to draw these cartoony characters out of simple shapes like spheres and squash shapes. You have to map where the eyes go, like kind of like a Loomis drawing. You like put these guidelines on a sphere, and there's a brow line, there's a like bottom of the nose line, there's a mouth line, there's a chin line. So Loomis is like part of learning that. But the famous artist cartoon course, which is made by like Norman Rockwell and other artists of his time, it's a really great one for like learning that stylization, along with like fun with a pencil, I would say. I use those Etherington Brothers guides. They have these like tricks for drawing hoofs and like these like dirt cliffs, like all these just like random things that you just might have to learn for one use and then possibly never again, but they're like very useful for like an infographic on learning stuff like that, like a diamond and all the little light reflections and the sheens, and there's a lot of strange light shading stuff you have to do when you're trying to draw a diamond if you want it to look right. I at times fell into the trap of the YouTube artist cycle. There's a lot of clickbait. Ethan Becker does have a lot of good advice, but he definitely clickbaits. I am glad that he explains to like not demonize reference though. I think that probably helped me quite a bit, but isn't good to get stuck in that cycle. Like more recently, I learned Procreate and I started like doing digital drawing and painting. I made some digital drawings, primarily to upground to Newgrounds. My friend asked me to draw the Katamari Prince, so I did, but I made him like buff for a laugh. That was my first project. A person in the forums requested a Samurai SpongeBob drawing, so I did that. I drew two, one in a field and one doing like a seppuku. I also drew a Samurai Patrick and like a shogunate armor. I had one from Meat Boy and a Pico School comic, and I did those two for Pico Day 2022. I didn't get many clicks, but either way it was like an achievement for me. I made a fairly complicated comic panel for the Pico School one, with a lot of stuff going on. Like I tried to put a lot of detail into each frame, and that took me like 3 days to put together, so I'm still proud of how that came out. It's a little bit cheap looking, but still. The last drawing I did was this Friday Night Funkin' one with like kind of weird cursed, like semi-realistic BF and GF characters. Like they're normally very chibi and stylistic. I don't know if that's cursed, but overall I've kind of realized like the coloring is a hassle, man. It even the Meat Boy one, which is super simple, like took like 6 hours to color, just constantly working at that. And I'm sure that you speed up with endurance and practice, but I think it just can take a long time. So I'm at like maybe like 10 or 11 months of drawing. I haven't actually picked up a pen in the past month because like the DALL-E 2 entered my radar, and that kind of freaks me out. Like the idea that the AIs can just like draw like way better than everyone else, and in like practically an instant, in like less than 10 seconds you can have a prompt. So that like kind of makes me like question my like worth as an illustrator, and it kind of made me just stop for now anyways. Like people on Reddit say that you should just like do the art for yourself, for your soul or something, and maybe there's truth in that, but I would say that the world is getting more difficult to survive in, you know what I mean? So I can't be putting all my eggs in a basket that a robot can do. Either way, I do still want to make this video to like document that I like accomplished something. I think I've like done pretty well, and I gradually learn these skills and put in like the muscle memory to, I don't know, just become like better at it over time. and I think that things worked out pretty well. I improved, I would say, and received praise from like friends. Like I sent a few texts to friends, and they said, "Oh yeah, like good picture," and that was cool, you know. And I got compliments from strangers on Newgrounds. In that respect, I passed a bar. The pandemic was kind of a miserable time for me, and I broke my right elbow in a moped accident in 2020. It's still like slightly weird. It like clicks and stuff, but the range of motion is quite good, and I'm able to draw from my shoulder. And as I said, it was the elbow, but you're supposed to kind of draw from your elbow too, and I can kind of do that, but well, I can do it because you like do it with the shoulder and the elbow, but yeah, I don't know. Hasn't screwed with me too much. And this is part of the challenge of learning to draw, was just seeing the precision that my arm had after it. So anyways, I hope this has been interesting, and I will just let this play out now.